It's 27 degrees here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily, your daily dose of sunshine. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
Well, 3 days away from the time when we celebrate the International Women's Day. That means today is March 5. Amaya Makinde, good morning and welcome. The weather today in Lagos is 32 degrees and who knows what's coming next in the day.
Well, I understand that neighboring Lagos State is Ogun State, and it does appear that the temperature there is 28 degrees this morning, but much later in the afternoon, from what we see on the weather forecast, it says they're going to be experiencing excessive heat. But I doubt very strongly that that is going to stop them from celebrating one of Nigeria's former leaders, former President Olusegun Obasanjo, who is 88 today. You know, Abeokuta and, well, by extension, Ogun State is famed for many prominent sons of Nigeria, well, sons and daughters, I might add, one of whom is President Olusegun Obasanjo, whom not just Nigeria celebrates today, Africa also celebrates today. You can see we're showing you sights and sounds of not just Olumorok, but you can also see the new train going through from Lagos, usually Ebute Metta, you know, going all the way to Abeokuta. So if you haven't tried that ride, it certainly will be worthwhile. Many prominent sons I'm going to highlight again. Hill, I don't know why I keep leaving out the daughters, because yes, Abeokuta is also famed for its daughters, one of whom is Olufumilayo Ransom Kuti. So you have her, you also have her sons who have made their name and made their state great and made Nigeria proud. Fela Ransom Kuti, I beg your pardon, Fela Anikulapo Kuti, Beko Ransom Kuti. We also have Nigeria's Nobel laureate, Professor Wole Soyinka. Who else do we have again? Of course, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, Nigeria's former vice president, also hails from that state. But today, we're celebrating one of its prominent sons, who happens to be ours and that of Africa's as well, former President Olusegun Obasanjo. He's a man who manages to raise mixed feelings amongst Nigerians. But whatever it is you think about President Obasanjo, you cannot take away from him the fact that he's truly passionate about this country and passionate about the African continent. Ayo.
Absolutely, Maupe. There are those who would wonder, hey, we keep mentioning the name of Obasanjo. Where did he come from? Well, go back to pre-Civil War, and he was the one that, according to the statement from the president, he was, as a colonel, fate beckoned on him while commanding the 3rd Marine Division to receive the instruments of surrender from Colonel Philip Effiong, the Biafran Army commander, signaling the end of Nigeria's 30-month civil war. That, of course, was back in the 60s. And, of course, that same fate made him head of state in this country in 1976, following the death of General Murtala Mohammed, and he handed over power to a democratically elected government and changed his government, changed the democratic government of Nigeria from the parliamentary to the presidential system of government that we run. And he was away from government for 20 years. And in 1999, he became a democratically elected president himself. So this is our way, dear President Olusegun Obasanjo, saying happy birthday to you, celebrating your state, Ogun State, neighboring Lagos. Well, Maupe, back to you.
Thank you very much, Ayo. Well, quite a lot has been happening in our dear country. I know that, you know, the celebrations for the president did not just, it's not just for today, they predated today. Quite a number of people have been holding celebrations, not just in Abeokuta. I believe that they also started here in Abuja, and I think they will also continue. But take a look at this celebration, which already went down to mark today ahead of his birthday.
Delboro Hotels Lagos plays host to high-caliber guests. who arrived to be part of an auspicious occasion. It's the celebration of former President Olusegun Obasanjo at 88, and the tributes come in their numbers.
When Nigeria was seen as a debtor nation, it was Baba who fought for Nigeria. I went to Ghana last week. They said they are trying to honor him over there.
He's one man that you can never doubt his love for Nigeria.
The long list of dignitaries in attendance include the former president of Liberia, Sirleaf Johnson, former president of Sierra Leone, Ernest Koroma, former Nigerian president Goodluck Jonathan, former vice president Atiku Abubakar, former Senate president Bukola Saraki, governors of Plateau and Anambra states, the Ooni of Ife, amongst others. The evening is laced with goodwill messages for President Olusegun Obasanjo, who has in no small measure impacted leadership on the continent.
This legend that we have, our icon, that today we can be here to honor him for all that he has done and what he is. Thank you all.
How can we celebrate the life of Baba enough? How can we? Somebody that has impacted all of us. That is why we are here.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan, as well as Vice President Atiku Abubakar, also take turns to pay homage to a man they regard as a legend.
And you are one leader we have that, while in office, nobody ever accused you that you were a tribal Bible.
We pray that God gives him more life, healthy life for that matter, strong, so that he can continue to serve the country, Africa, and indeed the rest of the world.
On his part, the celebrant expresses gratitude to God and then to the organizers, as well as those privileged to attend the party. But however coveted the prayers of everyone as he embarks on an intervention mission to the Democratic Republic of Congo, a land he describes as one of Africa's wealthiest, yet bedeviled by war.
We want to find African solution to African problem. And 3 African leaders were put to try and find African solution to a particular African problem. If he failed, it will be a disastrous failure.
Born on the 5th of March 1937, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, who hails from Owu Kingdom, served as Nigeria's head of state from 1976 to 1979 and later president from 1999 to 2007. Crystal Lems, Channels Television News. It's been a roller coaster of events at the Lagos State House of Assembly since January 13, when 36 lawmakers impeached Mudashiru Obasa and elected Mojisola Miranda as the first female Speaker of the Assembly.
And so help me God.
From Mudashiru Obasa's sudden return to proclaim himself as Speaker with 4 members of the House, to the lawsuit challenging the legality of Obasa's removal, Lagosians have watched with keen interest when and how the crisis will eventually be resolved. The first sign that something was in the offing this Monday is the presence of security operatives around the assembly complex. Shortly after a meeting between the two key figures in the crisis, the state chairman of the All Progressives Congress, the state attorney general, gets underway, lasting about 3 hours. And then the group moves into the chamber for the day's plenary session, presided over by Mojisola Miranda. She makes the first big announcement of the day.
Just like we know that the party decision is supreme. At this point, I take a bow as your speaker, and I step down as your speaker of this great house. I am not a quitter. However, I took the above decision in order to save this legislative institution from further unnecessary conflict and embarrassment.
And more resignations are to follow, with the lawmakers extolling the leadership qualities of Honorable Miranda in the last 49 days.
You are a hero of democracy, or call it heroine, whichever way. You are a valiant. You are an achiever. You are a winner.
There's one quality I see in you. It's called leadership awareness. You sense your environment, and that is something that is great, because only powerful leaders are able to foresee the unseen and sense the unknown.
To nominate Right Honorable Dr. Mudashiru Obasa to take the chair as the Speaker of this prestigious Lagos State House of Assembly, I so nominate.
In what looks like a well-written script, Mudashiru Obasa was nominated as the new Speaker of the House and immediately steps in to take his oath of office.
Thank you.
What is happening here today shows that Lagos State House of Assembly is very capable, and it's a house of integrity, a mature house that has internal mechanism to resolve in the interest of the institution and our party.
Honorable Miranda was also re-elected to her previous position of Deputy Speaker alongside other new principal officers. On the surface, it may look like the leadership crisis at the Assembly has been resolved. Political observers are, however, watching to see what plays out at the Assembly in the next few weeks.
As would be expected, there have been reactions to that development in the Lagos State House of Assembly, one of which, has come from a governorship candidate in the last elections in Lagos, as well as a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party in Lagos. He's here with us in the studio, so for sure, Doherty, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Do you see this as a closure or as an evolution to another phase?
Well, so I see it not as final closure, and the reason is because, to me, these are symptoms that we see, and they are symptoms of the tensions that come from a hegemonic structure that we've had in Lagos State for so long. Really, what played out, or what has played out, really sends the message that what we have is a government by proxy, right? Because it almost appeared as if the people who were watching were playing out a script that was written for them, by others. And by the way, the people that we are seeing are the elected people. So in a democracy, you don't expect that to be the case. It's also, by the way, negates the principle of democracy, because democracy
evolved from monarchical systems, as you know, where we were ruled by kings and things like that. And the idea is to give people a voice in government. The people's voice in government is their assembly members, or are their assembly members. The reversals and counter-reversals send the message that that voice essentially has been captured by certain forces that operate behind them. And I think that is not healthy for democracy. So what I would say is that whilst we see something that looks like, maybe a smoothing over of tensions, I think fundamentally, this is not the end. I think it reflects the fact that there are cracks in that monolithic hegemonic structure that has operated in Lagos State. And I think that we will see other symptoms in other areas to come.
But there are those who would ask you, hey, first of all, even though there are issues of governance, the system or structure through which we practice governance is democracy. And our democracy is operated through political parties and political structures. Mm-hmm. So there are those who would say, look, on the one hand, there are legal interventions to crisis management in a democracy. Mm-hmm. And there are those who would also say, hey, don't forget, we also have political interventions, which the president has attempted in the situation in Rivers State. Of course, we'll get back to that later. So that also would say, like, this is a political intervention to something that is already going awry.
There are a couple of assumptions built into what you said. Yes, we have party structures. There are party structures everywhere in the world, right? So you would expect that there will be party structures. But the party structure cannot be sovereign over the people. It has to be subordinated to the will of the people, because the party structure exists to express the views of the people, right? So yes, there's party structure, but where it conflicts with the will expressed by the people, you cannot put the party over the people. And that is what is problematic in this situation. The lawmakers had taken a line of action, expressed it very clearly, very decisively, very vocally, up to the point of going to court, 36 of them. So their position was very clear, and they gave reasons for their position. None of those reasons, by the way, have they come back to say have changed for why they thought the speaker was not the right person to lead them. What has changed is their course of action upon pressure by, the party leadership. So it is very clear, and you can cast it, or they can cast it however they might want to cast it, but it's very clear that they had a certain will, which, by being the elected representatives of the people, must be considered the will of the people. And that will was overridden, by the will of an unelected group.
Okay. Well, Maupe has someone else to join us in this conversation. Maupe, go ahead.
Indeed, we also have joining us this morning Mr. Jace Epelle of TAF Africa, who joins us virtually from Switzerland. But just before, we go to him, Mr. Epelle, I'll come to you shortly, because I know that you have been intervening quite a bit in assembly crisis, and I'm sure you must be a little concerned about, what exactly is happening with our local democracy. But before I come to you, let me go to Lagos, and take up Mr. Doherty a bit more on some of the, things that he has said. He's actually issued a statement in this regard. And I have also been, a lot of Nigerians saw this statement. I'm sure they were curious as to what precisely, because in your statement, sir, you addressed 4 categories of people. You addressed members of the Lagos State House of Assembly. You addressed Ms. Mojisola Meranda. You addressed the leadership of the APC and also the people of Lagos. Mm-hmm. I am just a little curious. What would you have had? Given the fact, given what we saw play out, given just how we saw the members of the Lagos State House of Assembly struggle to uphold the mandate that they had given to Ms. Mojisola Meranda to be their speaker, and how difficult it was becoming for them to hold forth. We saw what happened just last week before this week came, where the former speaker, went back to the House, said he had reinstated himself, presided plenary over 4 people, We also saw how 35 of them had a press conference asking their party leadership what they had done. At this point, people were wondering, is Lagos House now divided? You know, what's going to happen? Is it one house, two speakers? What would you have had them do under the circumstance?
Well, so there are two issues. There's the lawmakers as, you know, individuals and as representatives of the people in their representation function. And my view is that in that function, having taken a decision, they should have stood by that decision. Now, on the other hand, part of this must be an assessment of the party structure within which they operate, and on which most of them were elected, by the way, if not all of them, and the culture of that institution, and the way it is set up, and the way it runs, and the extent to which it is accepting of dissent, accepting of alternative viewpoints, the extent to which it is monolithic and a hegemony, and whether that actually is a healthy structure and a structure that is built to achieve the ends of democracy, or if it's just a structure that is built to capture the state, capture the voice of the people, and essentially extract sovereignty from the people and perpetuate itself in power. So I think in that statement, I was very clear as to what I thought, you know, the positions that each of those individuals should have taken. I think it was a defining moment. It was a moment that could have been a historic moment. And I think we missed an opportunity. And I think that the implications and consequences of it, you know, will reverberate for some time to come.
The cost of that would have been, because some people will say, look, what that could have done is put the Lagos State House of Assembly, bring it to a standstill. Don't forget that the last assembly that Ms. Miranda presided over, they adjourned Synodine. It was unclear when the assembly was going to reopen. Same went for the assembly that the Speaker Obasa also, you know, presided over, the one that he had 4 people in attendance. He also adjourned Synodine. So if there had been no compromise, people would have said, well, at what cost is that going to be to the people of Lagos?
So the truth of the matter is that the loser in all of this is the people of Lagos. And the winner, supposed winner, is the party, the APC party, right? And we have to question, you know, in whose interests are they acting? Bear in mind that this thing is not a very difficult thing. It's a very simple thing when you really dig deep, because these are the lawmakers. They appointed the man in the first place. 36 of them got together and said, this man must go. We're tired of him for X, Y, and Z reasons. We choose this other person. The House could have continued to operate normally without the interference of forces that then created, you know, instability in the normal administrative operations of that body. Remember that Obasa had gone to court, which he has every right to do, and he should have continued to pursue that while the House continues to sit. Remember that and this is an important point. Remember that one of the things that is at play here is the separation of powers, okay? And separation of powers on 2 levels. 1, separation of powers between the executive and the legislature within the state, and then separation of powers within or between the state and the federal, both of which are important in a federal republic like Nigeria. And I think part of what allowed the situation to degenerate was because all of these organs fall under the dominance of one entity that controls all, including the security forces. And even within that dominant structure, which is the APC, there is domination within the APC by a particular power block. And so we have an extreme situation, and I think that is what is playing out.
Let me go to Mr. Jace Epelle. Mr. Epelle, we've seen this conflict, You know, we see it every now and again. We've seen it at a national level. We saw it when Senate President Bukola Saraki was elected. Part of why there was an uproar was he was not the party's choice. The party, we understand, is supposed to have supremacy in matters like that. But the assemblies have always tried to say, you know what, we reserve the right to elect our own leadership. We saw it also when Right Honorable Tambuwal was elected as Speaker of the House of Representatives. And interestingly, at that time, the APC, even though it wasn't yet formed, was in opposition. The legacy parties that outformed the APC were in opposition, and they gave very strong backing to Mr. Tambuwal then, who was in the PDP, saying that the House of Representatives reserves the right to elect its own leadership. But when it comes to the state level, we've seen how external influences usually come to play in selecting the leadership, in imposing the leadership. Is there a conflict of sorts? Do you really see a role for the party? Because we see it every time at the federal level, whenever the elections have just been concluded, and we saw what maneuverings went into the 2019 and also the 2023 elections for the election of the leadership of the National Assemblies. But how would you say that this influence, is it overbearing, or are they in their right to try and continue to select the leadership for the House of Assembly and also for that of the federal legislature?
Well, good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, Mope. My friend is cold here in Geneva, but I'm enjoying the cold weather. I think I like the cold weather. But also to say congratulations, my dear father. I'm a non-residential son of Olusegun Obasanjo. Unknown to many people, Olusegun Obasanjo is the live grand patron of TAF Africa. And I'm so proud, and I hope I don't cry. I'm so proud of him for the legacy that he left behind. He was the first president in the world that treated persons with albinism for free and remained so committed to my cause. Every time he sees me, he drags me and holds me in the hand and be greeting every other person. I love you. I love you. God bless you, my president. God keep you. God sustain you. Thank you for what you're doing for democracy. Thank you for what you're doing for Africa. Thank you for what you're doing in the world. You may not be perfect, and you're not, but you are a good and godly man. I use this opportunity to say happy birthday. That said, Maupe, it's unfortunate what is playing out in Nigerian democratic scene. It's very unfortunate. We're not getting it right at the national. We're not getting it right at the sub-national. But however, I differ a little with my co-panelists this morning. And I do respect you, sir. You took a real deep dive into the issues at hand. However, my difference is that I think what we have seen in Lagos is maybe slightly commendable because it's a way of cushioning the effect of a crisis that will rock the very babyish democracy that we have, at least in Lagos State. I wish what has happened in Lagos State has happened in my own dear state, Rivers State. It is unfortunate that the players, the present players in the democratic space, are taking democratic values to the gutters. It's unfortunate that politicians have decided that it has to be my way or the highway. It is very unfortunate. But however, I commend this woman. She is a heroine indeed. I commend her. That's what leadership is all about. Your ability to know when to bow out and wait for your time. I don't know how to meet her. If I have her number, I will call her now and congratulate her. She has saved crisis, looming crisis that would have thrown Lagos State into a disaster. No matter what the undercutting issues may be, no matter what eventually will emerge, so now there is some level of sanity, there is some level of stability. You know, it's also commendable that the Lagos State governor will allow this to happen. Look, my friend, I've never met you, but you're also a hero because you have all the powers to intervene and subdue, and you refuse to do so. This is a true test of democracy. No matter how, you know, senseless he may look, I like what I've seen because there is no need to tear the state apart. No matter what will play out tomorrow, you know, it really doesn't matter. This is what Ayo will call political solution over constitutional provision. Ayo, I hope you don't take me to the cleaners. But it's true. Sometimes necessity takes its course just for peace to reign. I pray, and I truly pray, that the likes of Wike and my brother Fubara will see this and find a way to resolve the crisis in Rivers State. I believe that the likes of Fubara wants peace. And maybe I also believe that Wike will eventually pull the line of peace.
Okay, so let me ask you, because you didn't quite answer my question. The question is,
I know
that we have seen this tussle, you know, between the leadership of the National Assembly, you know, trying to, we're not so much at the State Houses of Assembly. I think it's the first time where we might be seeing it this strong at the state level where, you know, the State House of Assembly tried to say we are independent, but I think eventually they capitulated to what the party wanted. But at the federal level, we always see this battle every time a fresh election has been conducted. And we've seen that oftentimes the leadership might not be the party's choice. So for you, where do we draw the balance? How do we manage the balance? Do you think that the party has a right, or do you think that the independence of the House should be protected? They should be allowed to choose their own leadership.
Marco, you know, you're known to asking hard questions. I was just going towards that when you interjected, and it was rightly so because you want your audience to get a direct answer. Now, here's the thing. The problem remains the meddling of the executive arm in the legislative arm. As long as the president, the governors, wants to determine who takes the mantle of leadership in the legislature, as long as the legislature wants to play the stooge and rubber stamp of the executive arm, we will keep having this problem. And so, for solution, we need to allow the executive arm to breathe. We need to allow the legislative arm to breathe. Let them follow the internal mechanism and procedures that will emerge a leader that is chosen by those that will elect them, and not those that are outside the window peeping in. That is the problem, meddling. The third point I would like to make is the judiciary. Judiciary is fast becoming the enemy of democracy. And I'm not saying all the judges. I know some judges that are outright. They are very, very courageous. They stand for the people. Not all of them. Just like in my space, not all persons in the NGO world are corrupt. So in direct answer to your question, as long as the executive arm wants to control what happens in the legislative arm, as long as the legislative arm wants to play the boy kind of role and rubber stamping, we will keep having this problem. So final solution, let the executive arm run their show within the powers of the executive arm and let the legislative arm run their show within the powers of the legislative arm. That's how it works. And if we keep closing our eyes and not speak out, you know, we will keep having this problem. I can tell you for free, I like what Bukala did. I like what my good friend Tamboa did. They stood for what they believed, their conviction, and they were elected. And I think that's what democracy is all about. The governor cannot want to control the speaker. The speaker must not be another individual who wants to run the show the way he wants and how he wants it and cut the shots. It is democracy. It requires processes, obedience to rule of law, respect to the Constitution, respect to the constituted authority, the true leadership within their arm. That's what makes democracy. If your people reject you, you're doomed. If the process, you violate it, you're doomed. So in simple answer to your question is meddling. When the executive arm meddles and wants to control what happens at the legislative, this is what you get. It is chaos in capital letter. It is crisis in capital letter. And this thing will continue if we don't speak truth to power, if we don't hold them accountable, if we don't let them know that it's not business as usual, you know. And they are good people. They are very good people. Permit me to also use this opportunity to, you know, thank the president and his dear son for the support he's giving to persons with disability. I've never met Sheyi Tinubu, but he has been very supportive to the cause of persons with disability and is commendable. And he has shown that support even in Switzerland where we are. Just phone call alone is enough to encourage an individual. Everything is not about money.
Mr. Epelle, I'm going to ask you to hold your thoughts. Let me quickly take this to Mr. Doherty now. I'm sure that you're clearly are no stranger to Nigeria's politics for a very long time. And just that question I was asking Mr. Epelle as to whether you see a role for the party when the leadership emerges, you know, especially after elections have been concluded. What are your thoughts, I mean, in that regard? I know that you've intervened in the Lagos State. You've let your thoughts be known in the Lagos State matter. But, you know, at the national level where we've seen this tussle, this back and forth, because oftentimes the party says that the reason why they intervene is so that they can ensure balance. We understand a part of the reason why the party was unhappy in this instance was that a particular senatorial district in Lagos was going to be left out. It was not going to have representation. So, and that's why we always see, you know, the party try to intervene at the national level too. In the case of when Tambuwal emerged, I'm trying to remember what year now, I think was it 2015 or so. The Southwest, it would seem, held the short end of the stick with regards to representation in that regard. So do you see a role here really for the party?
See, no one is arguing, Malkwe, that the party does not have a role. And everywhere in the world, the party has a role. And you have discussions, you have consultations, but remember that the legislators themselves should be, if they are doing their job and if they are playing their role, a very strong power block within the party, right? Because they are people of gravitas and of weight themselves, and they also carry the mandate of the people. So that is a very heavy thing to bring into the party structure. Now, the problem also with Lagos was that they had indicated clearly in one way, and then it was very obvious that they were forced or turned, or that was overruled, essentially, the other way. So I think that what is not okay is for sovereignty to be taken away from the people. I should also say, Malkwe, that I see, and I thank my friend and elder brother for his comments on this issue. But of course, we clearly disagree. I see a conflict between the early part of his comment and the latter part of his comment. So on the one hand, he argues that Lagos State has done a good thing. They've papered over the problem. We have gone through a crisis and all of that. And then he rounds up by saying that when talking about Bukky Saraki and so on, he says, if we don't stand up and if we don't speak to power, we will never make progress. And he sort of appreciates what they've done. So those two things, I think, are in conflict. And I think that, look, we can continue covering up things. We can continue going along. But the battle you don't fight today, you will fight tomorrow. I can also say that, at the end of the day, this is really, even though it's spilled into the public space and affected the people, it has revealed a lot about APC. And I think that there will be consequences of that, even in terms of how the electorate perceives the party and what is going on in the governance of Lagos State. I
like the fact that you bring it back to the people, because that's what Mr. Epelle also has spoken to, how this affects the people. So speaking to that, Mr. Epelle, very quickly, what then? It seems like the House of Assembly does not have a voice of its own. It has to be breathed down. According to the statement from the PDP signed by Mr. Doherty here, well, as a leader in the party, he said that the people spoke, the House of Assembly spoke, and that they went over and above the constitutional requirement to vote in a particular direction for Ms. Miranda. But here we are now. It's like the whole party structure, all of these politicians are capitulating. And why should the people of Lagos trust them?
Thank you, Ayo, and thank you for that question. If you can hear me loud and clear.
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes. It's very commendable, Mr. Doherty, his insights, and I do respect his intellectual capacity, which is commendable. For me, I am strictly apolitical, and I will remain so till God calls me home. My interest is to build democracy. If he's a member of PDP is also exempted from the same problem, However, and any other political party in Nigeria. However, the point I'm trying to make, which does not in any way negate what he has said, I mean, we have differences in opinion, is the fact that I really am a very peaceful person and one who calls for peace. No matter what the issues are, if we can stem the tide and sit down and talk, we will eventually arrive there. So the political party structure in Nigeria is good. It does have a problem. The internal democracy is shattered. And so what you see that plays out sometimes is just an egg that looks so beautiful, but inside is rotten, And no political party is exempted from this, That said, as long as the optics that we see shows that the people collectively elected an individual, collectively voted, if the minority doesn't have the vote to achieve the majority outcome, that is democracy. That's how it plays out. Whether there was intrigue and power play behind the curtain, is left for what happens within the chambers. However, if you have a truly unpopular candidate, there is no way that person will win an election if it's truly unpopular. Okay. And so if someone emerges as being elected by majority, well, they could be hanky-panky, but that person has fulfilled the tenets of democracy in a way.
Well, Mr. Epelle, there's so much to... I hope we'll be able to bring you into the studio one of these days to have conversations on this peace agenda of yours, but the implications on governance is also considerable. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Mr. Jace Epelle is the founder of TAF Africa. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Doherty, a related issue is what's happening in Rivers State. And you heard Mr. Epelle also reference it earlier. Issues in the assembly spilling into the executive. What are the parallels and what are the differences, in your opinion? And what would you propose as the way forward in the light of the Supreme Court's ruling?
Well, I'm not as familiar with Rivers State as I am with Lagos State, but I think many of the issues are similar. So they border on separation of powers between the executive and the House. They border on separation of powers in terms of influence, because the prior governor, is operating at a national level now, and some of that influence is also there. I think that basically my sense of it is that the governor in Rivers State has chosen to confront the issue and stand his ground, and essentially resist the creation of this hegemonic structure that the preceding governor would like to create. This is the impression that we have. And I think this is a battle worth fighting. I think it's a battle worth fighting. Perhaps if we had fought this battle some time ago in Lagos, we would be beyond it, right? So I think that at some point you have to say, okay, how are we going to be defined going forward? Are we going to go through this crisis, resolve it, and emerge with a democracy where the governor is the governor? Or are we going to paper it over and have a hegemonic structure where the person who is in the governor's seat, we don't know if that person is the person making the decisions? And I think it's a fundamental thing.
Okay.
And so that's my sense of Rivers State.
Okay. Malcolm.
Well, Mr. Doherty, you have recently defected to the People's Democratic Party from the ADC, and you were warmly welcomed by the candidate of the PDP in the last general elections and the governorship elections in Lagos State, which you contested yourself. But right now, he has now left the PDP. I'm talking about Mr. Abdulaziz Adediro, also known as Jandor. I don't know whether you've read his own reasons for leaving, and do you think that you could be in the same quagmire now that you have chosen to be in the PDP?
Thank you, Mark, for that question. And my decision to join the PDP was not a decision that was taken overnight. It was a well-considered decision after a lot of consultation, internally and externally. And so, it's not a decision taken lightly, and this is the way I approach my decision, particularly big decisions. But, with respect to the previous gubernatorial candidate in 2023 election who left the party yesterday or day before, when people take actions, they generally will give reasons for their actions. The reasons they give may or may not reflect the reality. It's a combination of maybe a bit of the reality and maybe a bit of what picture they want to paint upon their exit. And so that is how I will interpret those comments. I am not perturbed. I believe the PDP has a strong platform. Does that mean that there are not internal possible disagreements, maybe squabbles that need to be dealt with? Sure, there are. But show me the political party that doesn't have that. We've just spent almost half an hour discussing the ruling party's internal squabbles. So I think that there's a reality and there's the perception that people want to paint. And I think we should try to distinguish between the two. And I think I'll probably leave it at that.
Yeah, okay. You just spoke about, the squabbles within the PDP. I mean, the PDP, the local PDP in Lagos, I'm sure their own squabbles will be different from the PDP at the national level. How concerned are you about the squabbles at the national level? The fact that the PDP, part of the criticism against the party is that it's been unable to play its fundamental role as a strong opposition party to the ruling APC.
Yes, those, there are those squabbles that exist. But what I would say is that there are clear efforts to deal with, those and mediate amongst those disagreements. As you know, political parties are, conglomerations of people who come from different origins and so on. So these will happen from time to time. One of the things that, I see is rather than, wring our hands about, these issues, we see ourselves as part of the people who will join hands with those who are already joining hands, to find solutions to difficulties where they may exist. And I think that, the future of the PDP is strong. I think there's a lot that will emerge over the next, we are midway through the election cycle now. There's a lot that will emerge over the next 24 months. And I think we should just stay tuned. And I think also my joining the party in a way, I think should be interpreted as a signal.
Well, there's so much to take you upon. I believe that the coming days will definitely give us something to look at. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Thank you so
Doherty
much.
Is former governorship candidate in Lagos, and he is a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much, Ayo.
Well, so Markwell, any comments we want to take? We have a few.
None that I have seen from our producers right now. I'm sure a few on the social media handles, but yet to be put up in such a way that we can read them for our viewers. But we have to thank you so much for being a part of, the program this beautiful Wednesday morning. Don't forget, it's Ash Wednesday for Christians around the world. I actually did think about coming to work with ash on my forehead just to remind those, who had yet to go for Ash Wednesday. And it's one of the very few times that, the Christian fasting season also happens to coincide with that of the Muslim fasting season. I'm hoping that it will foster a season of love and understanding and, tolerance amongst the two major faiths practiced in this country. Ayo.
Well, clearly,
I do hope that,
well, clearly, if
we don't
the
have
Christians,
to shut down the station.
Absolutely. If the Christians are fasting and the Muslims are fasting and they are both in the House of Assembly, let's hope there will be peace indeed that will extend beyond, this period in our lives. Well, I guess it's a good place to live it, isn't it?
It is indeed. Thank you so much for being a part of our program this morning. I'm Maokpe Ugu Yusuf.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Think Nigeria. God bless you. Bye for now.